there is something I need to get off my chest. Climate change is the trend. Nothing less, nothing more. Statistically speaking, not to be confused with the variance, not the range, and especially not the outliers. To establish a trend, you need strict definitions. If you can't define a thing, you can't measure it. And if you can't measure it, you can't find trends. In weather and climate, defining, measuring, and finding trends is easy for exactly one element, temperature. For everything else, defining, measuring, and trending, if you like, ranges from, yeah, we can proxy that, or yeah, we can reasonably fake that, to that's just impossible. And if we graph this challenge, the graph would be seriously skewed toward the impossible. Temperature is a continuous variable, easily defined and present all day, everywhere. That makes it relatively easy to measure and figure out if it's going up, going down, or neither. It also makes it easier to model. Have you noticed the PowderPicker doesn't include an ensemble temperature forecast? That's because we don't need no fancy ensemble for temperature. Any model will do. Precip, on the other hand, is a discontinuous variable. Sometimes it's present, sometimes not. This has consequences statistically and for modeling, making it way harder to both describe and to model. This is why a precip forecast, be it for today, next week, next month, or next season, is always far less reliable, relatively speaking, than the accompanying temperature forecast. This is also why meteorologist David Jones can easily pick out trends in temperature. But when it comes to precip, I'm stone cold stupid, because my CV does not include a PhD in statistics. For powder pickers, it gets worse. When it comes to measuring and modeling non-liquid precipitation like snow, a single PhD won't do, and I'm not even sure if 4 of them would help anyone. Now, let's make it really complicated. What about weather patterns, which are composed of about a gazillion different elements? For example, highs, lows, warm, cold, Arctic, stationary, and occluded fronts, jet streams, cold air masses, humid air masses. Well, let's just pick one. West Coast windstorms. Imagine it's your job to look for trends in the frequency or intensity of local windstorms. Should your measuring stick be the sustained wind, the peak wind, the duration of gale force winds, the size of the windiest area, the area of the storm, the rate of pressure falls, the time of year the storm strikes, or the dollar damage inflicted? And what are you going to do with those biases in the database that arise from changes in vegetation around the instruments, which affect the local wind? And that inconvenient problem of changing instrumentation over the years. Wind used to be reported manually once an hour using a clunky mechanical anemometer. Nowadays, electronics can measure the wind 5 times a second. And then there's those strange corruptions of the database that arose because the fellows observing and reporting the wind back in the day had some weird human preference for even numbers over odd. Yeah, it's a thing. I could go on, but I won't, except to shout something I've ever only shouted at an umpire, and not since I last played baseball in my 20s. Hey, MTs, and you know I mean only my professional friends, give your heads a shake. You know better than to go around simplifying the weather and hinting that climate change may or may not have had something to do with this storm or this double rainbow. Sorry?